I sat in the oncologist's office, still processing the words stage 3, when my phone buzzed. A text from my business partner of 12 years. We need to talk today. 6 hours later, Derek put a buyout offer on the table. For 30 cents on the dollar, my half of the company we'd built together, the business that was my entire life's work, offered back to me at a fraction of what it was worth, while I was sick, while I was vulnerable, while I was terrified I might be dying. I looked at him across that conference table, and I felt something I'd never felt for Derek before. Pure, cold rage. But here is what I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that everything I thought I understood about that moment was wrong. And the fight I was about to start would end up saving both our lives in ways neither of us could have imagined. If you've ever jumped to conclusions and later discovered you were completely wrong, you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button because this channel is about the stories that surprise us, the ones that remind us things are rarely what they seem. Like this video, if you believe that truth is worth fighting for, even when it is complicated, and share in the comments about a time you were certain someone had betrayed you, only to learn there was more to the story. Now let me tell you what really happened when my business partner tried to buy me out. Derek Chen and I started Riverside Digital Marketing in 2011. We met at a networking event, both of us working dead, and jobs, both of us dreaming of something more. He was the creative mind, I was the operations guy. We complemented each other perfectly. 12 years. We weathered the early years when we couldn't pay ourselves, the expansion into 3 cities, hiring our first employee, then our 10th, then our 50th. Client wins and client disasters. We'd been through everything together. We weren't just business partners. We were friends. Our families had dinner together. Our kids played on the same soccer team. When his father died, I spoke at the funeral. When my son graduated high school, Derek and his wife were in the 3rd row, cheering. So, when I got the diagnosis, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 3, aggressive treatment needed immediately. Derek was the second person I called, right after my wife. He came to the hospital, Saturday with me, held my hand while I cried, said all the right things. We'll figure this out. The business will be fine. You focus on getting better. I believed him. Completely. Treatment started 2 weeks later. Chemotherapy hits you like a truck. The exhaustion isn't just tiredness. It is like someone replaced your bones with lead. I couldn't work. Some days I couldn't get out of bed. Derek took over everything. Client meetings, staffing decisions, financial oversight. I signed a temporary power of attorney giving him operational control while I was incapacitated. It made sense. Someone had to run the company. 6 weeks into treatment, he called that meeting. He came to my house. I was too weak to go to the office. Saturday, in my living room, put a folder on my coffee table. Rob, we need to talk about the company, he said. His voice was different, flat, business-like. The board has concerns. Your absence is creating instability. Clients are nervous. We're losing momentum. They want a clear succession plan. I tried to focus through the chemo fog. Succession plan, Derek, I am not dying, I am sick. There is a difference. But you might not come back the same, he said. And even if you do, it could be a year. Maybe longer. The company can't wait that long. He opened the folder. A buyout offer. They'd valued my 50% share at $2.1 million. Our company was worth $14 million. I'd seen the quarterly reports. My half was worth $7 million, minimum. This is 30 cents on the dollar, I said, my voice shaking. It is fair market value given the circumstances, Derek replied. Your illness introduces risk. The valuation reflects that reality. I looked at my friend, my partner of 12 years, and I didn't recognize the person sitting across from me. Get out of my house, I whispered. I called my lawyer the next morning. Stephen had handled our corporate formation, our contracts, everything. He reviewed the offer and his face went dark. Rob, this is predatory. They're trying to force you out while you are vulnerable. But you have options. The partnership agreement has clauses that protect against exactly this kind of thing. We fought back. Hard, I filed an injunction blocking any ownership changes. I demanded an independent valuation. I called an emergency board meeting, attended via video from my living room, bald from chemo, a V-pole visible in the frame, and I made it clear I wasn't going anywhere. The battle lasted 3 months. Depositions, mediations, mounting legal fees, all while I was trying not to die from cancer. Derek and I didn't speak except through lawyers. 12 years of friendship incinerated in the space of a single meeting. But here is where things started to get strange. During discovery, my lawyer found something odd. The buyout offer hadn't come from Derek alone. It had been initiated by our board, specifically by 2 board members I barely knew. Silicon Valley investors who'd come in during our Series B funding round 3 years ago. More digging revealed that these investors had been pushing for a buyout for months. Before I got sick, they wanted to take the company in a different direction, one that required full control. They needed both Derek's and my shares. My lawyer found email chains, board meeting minutes, a pattern. The investors had approached Derek first, offering him a premium buyout for his shares if he could deliver mine too. When he refused, they'd pressured him, threatened to tank the company's valuation, suggested they'd replace him as CEO if he didn't cooperate. Then I got sick, and suddenly they had leverage. Stephen, my lawyer, sat me down with a printed email chain. "Rob, look at this. This is from Derek to the investors, dated 2 weeks before he made you the offer." The email read, "I won't be part of forcing Rob out while he is fighting cancer. If you want his shares, you'll have to go through me first, and I'll make sure he has the best representation possible." I stared at the screen, not understanding. "Keep reading," Stephen said. The next email, from the lead investor. "Derek, if you don't present this offer, we'll do it ourselves. We'll make it uglier. We'll tie him up in litigation. He doesn't have the strength to fight. At least if it comes from you, it is clean. Think about what is better for him." Derek's response: "There is nothing clean about this." But he'd done it anyway. He'd presented the offer. He'd sat in my living room and become the villain. I called Derek, first time in 3 months. He answered on the first ring. "Why?" I asked. No preamble, no greeting, long silence. Then, because if it came from me, you'd fight, you'd lawyer up, you'd have a chance. If it came from them, they'd bury you in paperwork until you were too sick to fight back. They were going to wait until you were weakest and force a settlement. "You could have told me," I said. "I tried." His voice cracked. "Rob, I tried to hint at it in the meeting, but they were listening. They insisted on being on speakerphone, recording everything. If I'd tipped you off, they would have moved immediately. This way, you had time. You had options. You had me on the inside, sabotaging their timeline, making sure you got the discovery documents you needed. I couldn't speak. I became the bad guy so you could see who the real enemy was," Derek continued. "And I knew you'd hate me for it. But I'd rather have you hate me and keep your company than watch them steal it while you were too sick to defend yourself." We met in person 2 days later, a coffee shop halfway between our houses. Derek looked like hell, like he hadn't slept in months. "I am sorry," he said immediately. "I should have found another way, but they gave me 48 hours to present the offer, or they'd do it themselves, and I panicked. I thought if you were fighting me, you'd bring your A game, and you did. You fought like hell. Why didn't you just tell me the truth from the start?" "Because they would have destroyed us both," Derek said quietly. "They had votes to remove me as CEO. They had the ability to force a fire sale of the company. If we'd fought them openly together, they'd have tanked everything we built and picked up the pieces for pennies. This way, with you fighting me. We looked divided. We looked weak. They got comfortable. They stopped paying attention." He pulled out his laptop, showed me months of work. While I'd been fighting him in court, he'd been quietly documenting everything. Every board meeting where the investors had overstepped, every fiduciary duty violation, every bit of pressure they'd applied. "I've been building the case to remove them," he said. "I just needed time, and I needed them to think they were winning." I stared at the screen, at months of meticulous documentation, and I understood. Derek hadn't betrayed me. He'd gone to war for me. He'd just done it in a way that looked like betrayal so the real enemy wouldn't see him coming. We took the case to the full board with our lawyers, presented evidence of the investor's misconduct, breach of fiduciary duty, and attempted theft of company assets during a medical crisis. The investors settled. They sold their shares back to the company at fair value and walked away. Derek and I restructured the board with people we trusted. We bought out their shares together, equal partners again. But more importantly, we had a conversation we should have had months earlier. "Why didn't you trust me with the truth?" I asked. Derek was quiet for a long moment. "Because I was scared. They were so powerful, so connected, and you were so sick. I thought I had to protect you. I thought I had to handle it alone." "We're partners," I said. "That means we handle things together, even the scary things, especially the scary things." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I am sorry. I thought I was saving you. I didn't realize I was breaking your trust." "You were saving me," I said. "You just did it the hard way." That fight, that awful, terrible fight, that almost destroyed our partnership, it changed how we run our business. We created new bylaws, protections for partners who face medical crises, clear succession planning that doesn't involve forced buyouts, board oversight with teeth. But it also changed how we talk to each other. We have a rule now: radical transparency. Even when it is hard, even when it is scary, even when you think you are protecting the other person by handling things alone. Derek told me later that watching me fight from a hospital bed, bald from chemo, fierce as hell, taught him something. "You didn't need me to protect you," he said. "You needed me to trust you, and I am sorry, it took almost losing everything for me to learn that." 3 years later, I am in remission. The company is thriving. Derek and I are still partners. Better partners than we were before. Actually, because we went through fire and came out understanding what partnership really means. Last month, we had coffee with a young entrepreneur who is bringing on her first business partner. She asked us for advice. Derek and I looked at each other, and we told her this story, the whole thing. The cancer, the buyout offer, the months of warfare, the truth that emerged. "Here is what we learned," I said. Trust is more important than protection. Partnership means sharing the hard things, not shouldering them alone. And sometimes the person who looks like your enemy is actually fighting your battle from the inside. But also, Derek added, when you think your partner is betraying you, fight anyway. Rob fought. He didn't just accept what looked like betrayal. He demanded truth. And that fight, as painful as it was, it forced everything into the light. It made space for the real story to emerge. The young woman looked between us. "So you are saying trust your partner but verify." "We're saying trust but communicate," I said. "Don't make assumptions. Don't try to protect each other from the truth. Just be honest, even when honesty feels dangerous." I think about that moment in my living room sometimes. Derek sitting across from me, putting that lowball offer on my coffee table. How certain I was that I knew what was happening. How completely I'd misread the situation. I was right to fight. The offer was predatory. The situation was wrong. But I was wrong about who the enemy was. And here is the thing. If Derek had told me the truth from the beginning, would I have believed him, or would I have thought he was making excuses? Would I have fought as hard if I'd known he was on my side? I don't know. I honestly don't know. What I do know is that partnership, real partnership, survives misunderstanding if both people are committed to truth. Derek did the wrong thing for the right reason. I fought the wrong person for the right cause, and somehow we both ended up where we needed to be. Here is what I learned while fighting cancer and fighting for my company. Things are rarely what they seem. The person who looks like your enemy might be your greatest ally. The betrayal that breaks your heart might be the sacrifice that saves you. I am not saying Derek made the right choice. I am not even sure I would have done what he did if our positions were reversed, but I understand why he did it, and I forgive him for not trusting me with the truth. Because at the end of the day, he fought for me, just from the inside where I couldn't see it. And when the truth finally came out, we were still standing, still partners, still friends. That is worth more than being right ever was. If this story made you think twice about jumping to conclusions, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more stories about the complicated truth behind simple narratives. But here is what I really want to know. Have you ever misjudged someone? Have you ever been completely wrong about someone's motivations? Share your story in the comments. Let's remind each other that truth is usually more complex and more beautiful than we first assume. Thank you for listening. And if you are in the middle of something that feels like betrayal, I hope you'll fight for the truth. Sometimes the fight is what reveals it. Derek says to tell you, trust your partners, but also give them room to be imperfect. We're all just doing our best with impossible choices. I'll see you in the next one.